We begin this episode by acknowledging the Wurundjeri and Bunurong people of the Kulin Nation, the traditional custodians of the land on which we record and share these stories. We pay our deepest respects to their elders, past and present, and extend that respect to all First Nations peoples listening or watching today's episode. We honour those who walked before us, their enduring connection to country, and the stories held in land, sky, and spirit. May we listen with openness and learn with humility. We acknowledge that sovereignty was never ceded. This always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Welcome to Beyond the Veil Australia podcast, where history, mystery, and the unexplained collide. From eerie encounters to forgotten histories, from channeled messages to scientific perspectives, we explore phenomena that defy easy explanation. I'm Heather, your guide through the shadows and the host of Beyond the Veil Australia podcast. Together, we'll unravel paranormal events, curious connections, and the questions that refuse to stay quiet. So whether you're a skeptic, a seeker, or somewhere in between, this space is for you. Welcome. Last season, we lifted the veil, but this time, we step through. So, the passage is open. What waits beyond is now calling your name. Hello, and welcome to today's episode, Cryptid Mania, The Watchers, Part 1. In today's episode, we are going to be exploring some of the cryptid creatures around the world, and we get to touch on some really creepy stories. So I hope you're all excited for this episode. Part 2 will be out next week, where we do the same thing. We deep dive into even more. So, again, thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for your engagement with the podcast through comments, reviews, engagement on social media. It truly, truly means the world to me. It really helps boost the podcast to get it to more people that are curious, paranormal enthusiasts just like us. So thank you so much. I really, really appreciate it. And yeah, I hope you're ready for today's episode. So, the Watchers. They appear before the fall, before the scream, before the silence. A winged figure with eyes like burning coals, perched on the edge of disaster. A beast that stalks the daylight, blamed for blood it may or may not have spilled. A frog-like creature with something strange in its hand, vanishing into the river without a trace. These are not just creatures, they're warnings. Warnings of collapse, of fear, of something breaking beneath the surface of the world and inside us. In this episode, we follow 3 trails. One through the foggy hills of West Virginia, where a bridge groaned before it fell. One through the forests of the 18th century France, where a beast became a scapegoat. And one along the banks of the Ohio River, where something small and strange still waits in the reeds. This is not a hunt. It's an autopsy of belief. Because sometimes the monsters we see are the ones we need. Our first creepy cryptid that we're going to explore is none other than Mothman. The eyes that warned. It began with a whisper, A shape in the sky. Eyes like burning coals. Wings that didn't flap. They glided. And always just before something broke. In Point Pleasant, West Virginia, the veil thinned and something stepped through. November 15, 1966. The air was cold, the leaves skeletal. Two young couples, Roger and Linda Scarberry, and Steve and Mary Mallet, were driving past the abandoned TNT plant on the outskirts of town. What they saw would ignite one of the most enduring legends in American folklore. It was tall, Linda had later said, grey with wings, and those eyes, red, glowing, like they were inside its chest. They sped away, but the creature followed, gliding, not flying, keeping pace with their car. No flapping, no sound, just a creepy presence. The next day, the Point Pleasant Register ran the headline, "Couple see man-sized bird, creature, something." Within days, more sightings poured in. Gravediggers, children, hunters, all describing the same thing, a winged humanoid 7 feet tall with hypnotic crimson eyes. It haunted the skies and the edges of memory. Point Pleasant was no stranger to folklore. Nestled along the Ohio River, it has its share of ghost stories and river legends. But this was different. This was now. And it was everywhere. The creature was dubbed Mothman, a name inspired by the Batman villain, chosen by local journalists trying to make sense of the chaos. But the name didn't capture the dread. The sightings clustered around the TNT area, a World War II mutants site, long abandoned, now overgrown, and eerily silent. It felt like something was watching us, said Connie Carpenter, who claimed to see Mothman while driving to church. Not just watching, knowing. Folklorists and skeptics offered explanations. A sandhill crane out of migration, a barn owl distorted by fear. But the witnesses insisted this was no bird. John Keel, a journalist and a paranormal investigator, arrived at Point Pleasant in 1967. He began collecting stories, not just of Mothman, but strange lights, phone calls with no voice, and men in black suits asking questions that made no sense. Keel's book, The Mothman Prophecies, would later suggest that Mothman was not a creature, but a phenomenon, a ripple in reality, warning a system from far beyond. It's not about what people saw, Keel wrote. It's about why they saw it and what happened next. On December 15, 1967, the Silver Bridge, connecting Point Pleasant to Gallipolis, Ohio, collapsed during a rush hour. 46 people died. And just like that, the sightings stopped. To many, this was confirmation. Mothman had come as a harbinger, a warning of disaster. But others saw something deeper, a collective trauma encoded in myth. Psychologists point to liminality, the idea that certain places and times are actually thresholds where reality bends. The TNT area was one such place. So was the bridge. So was the town, caught between memory and myth. Mothman is a shadow, said Dr. Elaine Klein, a Jungian analyst. I really hope that I said that right. The part of us that we fear projected outward. It's not chasing us, it's showing us what we refuse to see. Linda's breath caught in her throat. The thing was still there, perched on the edge of a road sign, wings folded, eyes burning. It didn't move, but she felt it deep in her chest, like it was inside her, watching, waiting. She never saw it again, but she dreamed of it for years. Mothman is more than a cryptid. It's a mirror. A myth born from fear, grief, and the need to make sense of chaos. Whether it was real, flesh and blood, or a psychic echo, it left its mark. Point Pleasant still honours the legend. There's a statue, a museum, a festival, but beneath the celebrations is something quieter, a memory, a warning. Some say Mothman was trying to help, the museum guide whispers. Others say it was just passing through. But everyone agrees it came before the fall. Wings like midnight, eyes like prophecy. Seen before disaster, but never after. Mothman didn't chase us. It showed us what was coming. And maybe that's the scariest thing of all. Wow. What a creepy, creepy cryptid. I have seen a few sort of documentary type things on Mothman, and I've always been really like, get the heebie-jeebies from it, because it is, you know, as I was just closing that segment, you know, it's only arriving before something happens, and it's never seen after, which is really eerie and kind of scary. You know, it's like an omen, like something's going to happen, but to what extent? Yeah, creepy, really creepy. But yes, I have seen a few, you know, art sketches or AI created Mothman images, and they are really quite chilling. Like there's just something about him that's just, it really gets into your soul, and you just feel dread, and you just feel creeped out, and like, oh, no, not cool. So when I was putting this episode together and I knew I was going to be covering Mothman, I was really wanting to try and capture those sightings and some of the most famous ones. And you know, I really was like, I need to make sure that I find some really good images to be able to include in the video of this episode. So if you're watching on YouTube, you will have seen some of those images, and I hope I didn't freak you out too much. But if you're only listening on a platform, you can of course head over to the social media pages, and you can go and check out the photos there. But yeah, uber creepy. But yeah, I'm curious, has anybody seen something like Mothman? Or if you do live in the US, have you actually seen him? Or anything, or do you know more stories? I'd be really curious to find out, because I'm sure that there's many out there. So yeah, really, really creepy. That one was a really interesting one to research, because there's just these stories that you come across are just, I don't know. There's just something about cryptid creatures that just gives me a little bit of the heebie-jeebies, and I don't know why. Yeah, creepy, super, super creepy. But yeah, I got the heebie-jeebies now. So we are going to move into the next creepy cryptid in today's episode, and that is the beast of Gévaudan. I really cannot pronounce that properly. It is a French name. So if you speak French or you are French, I'm very sorry. I can't pronounce things very well. I struggle with pronouncing English words at times, so don't hate me. But basically, it's nicknamed the scapegoat. So settle in for cryptid number 2. It came from the trees, low to the ground, eyes like coals, teeth like knives. It didn't kill to eat. It killed to remind. And the people of Gévaudan, they listened. Because when the beast howled, something ancient stirred in their blood. The first kill, June 30, 1764, in Langogne, France. Again, I really hope that I have not butchered that. My bad. A young woman named Jean Boulet was tending cattle in the hills when something emerged from the forest. Her body was found torn and mutilated. The villagers whispered of a wolf, but not like any other they'd ever seen before. Over the next 3 years, the killings continued. Over 100 attacks, dozens dead. Most were women and children. The creature was described as the size of a calf, with reddish fur and a black stripe down its back, including a terrifying human-like intelligence. It stood on 2 legs, one survivor claimed. It looked at me, not like an animal, like a judge. The people called it Le Bête, the beast. The region was poor, rural, and deeply Catholic. Superstition ran deep through its core. The church declared the beast was a punishment from God. Priests urged repentance. Some claimed it was a werewolf, others a demon. King Louis took notice. He sent professional hunters, muskets, bloodhounds, even a famed gunman named François Antoine. They killed wolves, many wolves, and declared victory. However, the killings continued. The beast cannot be killed, said one priest, because it's not of this world. Newspapers across France printed lurid headlines. Artists sketched the creature with horns, hooves, and glowing eyes. The beast became a national obsession and a convenient distraction from political unrest. Modern scholars see the beast as not just a cryptid, but a cultural phenomenon, a convergence of fear, myth, and manipulation. In times of crisis, societies project their chaos onto symbolic enemy. So, the beast became that vessel. Most victims were women and children, the most vulnerable, the most symbolically pure. The beast punished innocence. France had a long history of accusations. The beast revived old fears in a new form. The monarchy used the beast to distract from famine, rebellion, and the erosion of royal power. The beast was real, writes historian J. M. Smith, but not in the way we think. It was real because people believed it, and because it served a purpose. Marie was 12. She was walking home from the chapel when she heard it. A rustle, a breath, a growl. She turned. It was standing right there. Not a wolf, not a man. Something in between. It lunged. She screamed, and then silence. They found her shawl days later, torn, bloodied, but no body. Just claw marks in the dirt. The beast was never caught, not truly. The killings stopped in 1767 after a local hunter claimed to have slain the massive wolf. But no one could prove that it was the beast. And maybe that's the point. The beast wasn't just a creature. It was a story. A scapegoat. A shadow cast by a frightened people onto the woods. It gave shape to their fear. It gave them something to fight. And something to blame. Sometimes, writes folklorist Marina Warner, monsters are not born. They're summoned. By need, by fear, by silence. It hunted in daylight. It killed without hunger. It vanished without a trace. The beast may never have existed, but it was real because the people needed it to be. Whoa. Once again, there were a few times where I just didn't bother trying to pronounce the names of certain things or the towns, only because I just don't want to do a disservice to ruining it. But what a creepy as shit cryptid. That was one that upon researching, I'd actually never heard of this one before. So it was kind of cool to like start looking into it and being like, holy fucking shit. You know, like these sorts of things have happened for centuries. So it was really interesting kind of looking into this particular cryptid as well. It's interesting though, you know, it's only targeting women and children. And so it's interesting. Was it, you know, it leaves the question, I guess, for this one is, was it really actually a man who just, you know, had issues with women and children, and I don't know, maybe he'd got lost in the woods at some point and was basically barely surviving and somehow became this creature because he wasn't integrated into society? Or is it actually some kind of cryptid beast that is manifested, or is it something that's just out there even now that we wouldn't even know? I don't know. It's kind of, this is where I find cryptids really interesting, is that it's hard to sort of know again, is it more of a paranormal being that's manifested, or is it actually some biological creature that's just kept to itself and just kind of blended in with its environment, that it was just never studied, never noticed, anything like that? I'm not sure, but I have found sort of looking into different things about cryptids really quite interesting, because it leaves, I feel like this is a particular topic that really leaves more questions than answers. Um, yeah, I don't know what to think about a cryptid as such. It's really hard to sort of determine, but to kind of, before we move on to our next creepy cryptid, when was probably around Christmas time last year. It was probably about a week before Christmas, and there is a like sort of about 20 minutes from where I live. It was always, when I was growing up in that area, it was always known as the Christmas tree farm, because it was a place where you would, if you wanted like a proper pine Christmas tree, you could go there. It was like a proper Christmas tree farm where all the trees were grown and harvested, so on and so forth. And it's only been in the last maybe, I don't know, 12 months that I actually realized that there was like a little it's called Dinosaur World, and it actually sort of sits behind the Christmas tree farm. It's all run and managed by the same people, but I actually didn't even realize that it was there. And anyway, so we took our kids down there, and fabulous, fabulous work, by the way, down there. They've got amazing, like life-size robotic type of dinosaurs, so different types of dinosaurs, and they've set them up brilliantly. Fabulous. So my youngest son was just in heaven. He was just like, holy hell, there's real dinosaurs here. Anyway, we'd gone sort of into this bigger open area that was sort of like a big, beautiful, like park gardens type area, and had different sort of places for different dinosaurs and things like that. And we'd walked over to sort of like a little water hole sort of thing. And I happened to look over, and I looked at this particular dinosaur. I can't actually remember its name, to be honest, because dinosaurs are not my forte. They belong to my son. He could tell you what dinosaur it was. He would know straight away. I'd be like, it's the one in the water with the flippers. He'd be like, it's a whatever. Whereas I'd be sitting there going, I don't know, it's the one in the water with the flippers, like that's just, yeah. Anyway, so when I was like looking at some of these different aquatic type dinosaurs, there was one that really caught my eye. And I just sort of like was taken back for a minute. I'm looking at it, and I'm sort of reading a little bit about whatever this dinosaur is. And I looked at my husband and I went, does this particular dinosaur look kind of interesting to you? And he goes, what do you mean? Just completely nonchalant. And I'm like, there's a particular creature or cryptid that lives, somewhere in Europe, and is often seen in the water. Long neck, little flipper leg things, all of that. And he's like, oh, yeah, the Loch Ness Monster. I was like, yeah. Does Exhibit A look like Loch Ness Monster to you? Or a descendant or ascendant, whatever? Does it look like, the Loch Ness Monster's like half brother or sister or long lost cousin? And he's like, actually, yeah, it does. And so then it kind of put this question in my mind of like, well, part of me is kind of like, well, yes, there's like different cryptid creatures like Mothman and even this beast that they just don't fit like purely paranormal or purely biological. There's like this weird crossover in between. And so when I was looking at this whatever dinosaur it was, if you know the name, please leave it in the comments. But yeah, you're just going to listen to me talking about the one with the long neck and the flippers. But yeah, I did say to him, like, would it, maybe what if the Loch Ness Monster, or what's being claimed as the Loch Ness Monster, is actually still, what if it's actually that dinosaur that's somewhat evolved due to, like asteroids hitting the earth and, like the whole shebang, right? So what happens if it's somehow survived, because it's clearly a deep sea thing? So what if it's sort of survived and then just adapted to that, and what if it's still currently there? It's just we think that it's no longer around and extinct because it's technically a dinosaur and that's what we know. Because, there's a lot of research out there that says we know more about the universe than we do about the oceans and waterways and all of that on Earth. So it then kind of leaves that question open of like, well, are cryptids actually just biological things that some of them manage to survive through, like an ice age and a meteor explosion and a freaking however many different things have gone on at different points in time with the Earth, like, and then other part of me is kind of like, but again, I know I mentioned it. It was probably in part 2 of Tools of the Trade where it was like that taco ad where I was talking about, why not have both? Maybe this is another example of why can't it be both? Why can't it be both biological and paranormal and kind of its own unique thing all in one? Because, yeah, and it's the same like even with Bigfoot, that there's, like I've seen some of those shows like Expedition Bigfoot and, all those sorts of things. I find it really interesting because you've got people that are like trying to learn about different species that live in the woods and things like that. And they've come across multiple anomalies that they believe belongs to the one particular type of biological primate or something, but they can't technically prove it because they just can't get all of that evidence to be like married up together. Like they need to have like a proper, they'd almost need to sit down and like interview Bigfoot at the same time because there's just so much evidence there to say that something's out there, but they can't entirely be like, well, this is exactly what it is. Like, is it a biological thing or is it paranormal or is it both? Like, yeah, really, really kind of interesting. So, yeah, you got to hear a little bit about the dinosaur with the long neck and the flippers that I believe is like basically the Loch Ness monster. But yeah, I'm curious, like, has anybody kind of come across that if they're interested in cryptids? Like, is there anything that you've kind of looked up or looked into or found really interesting where you've sat there scratching your head feeling like, I've done all this research and I feel like I still have more questions than answers? Because yeah, I know I say this pretty much every topic, every episode is that it's like, it's just one of those things that it's like, are we at a point where we can kind of prove what these things are, or have we still got a long way to go with our technology and our our mind to be able to kind of go there and really get some kind of answer? So don't know, really curious to hear. But yeah, reach out to me or leave a comment, anything like that, or if you've had an experience like that, or if you've seen a different type of cryptid. I'm really curious to hear your story. So yeah, but we're now going to move into the third and final creepy cryptid that we're covering for episode 1, which is Loveland Frogman, or also known as the amphibian enigma. It stood by the roadside, 3 feet tall, skin wet like stone, eyes wide, and its hand something like a wand. It didn't speak, but it watched. And then it leapt into the river, leaving only questions. The first encounter. Loveland, Ohio, 1955. A travelling salesman was driving along the Little Miami River late at night when he saw 3 figures, frog-like, standing upright. They seemed to be talking amongst themselves. One raised a wand-like object and sparks flew. They weren't animals, he later said. They were something else, something that shouldn't be. The story faded into the local legend until 1972. A Loveland police officer, Ray Shockey, was driving near the same river when he saw a creature crouched by the road. It stood up, looked at him, and leapt over the guardrail into the water. He filed a report. Another officer, Mark Matthews, claimed to see it too, but later recanted it, saying it was just a large iguana. Still, the story stuck, and the Frogman became part of Loveland's mythic landscape. Loveland is a quiet town, suburban, riverbound, with a fondness for folklore. The Frogman became a local mascot. There were T-shirts, a musical, and of course, a festival. But beneath the humour was something stranger. Everyone laughs, said local historian Susan Geller, but no one wants to walk that stretch of road alone at night. The Frogman sightings were rare but persistent. Always near water, always fleeting, and always strange. Always accompanied by the sense of being watched. Folklorists see the Frogman as a classic urban legend, a story that evolves with each retelling, shaped by the anxieties of its time. The Frogman story mutated from mystical to monstrous to comical, reflecting shifting cultural moods. Loveland embraced the Frogman as a brand, turning fear into folklore and folklore into tourism. The human tendency to see patterns, so faces, figures, in ambiguous stimuli. The shadow becomes a creature. A splash becomes a leap. Stress, darkness, and expectation shape perception. What we believe we might see, we often do. The Frogman isn't just a cryptid, writes folklorist Linda Day. It's a cultural mirror, a story that adapts to survive. Ray slowed his cruiser. Something was crouched by the guardrail. It turned to him, eyes wide open, skin glistening. It stood about 3 feet tall, and then it leapt over the rail and into the river. But there was no sound, no splash. It was just gone. He filed the report, but he never spoke of it again. The Loveland Frogman is strange, but it's not terrifying. It's not violent, just off. It doesn't fit. It doesn't chase. It just appears and then vanishes. And maybe that's why it lingers. It's the kind of story that slips between categories. Not a monster, not a myth, just an anomaly. A glitch in the ordinary. A reminder that not everything can actually be explained. And not everything wants to be. The Frogman is the question, said one local. Not the answer, and maybe that's enough. It held a wand. It croaked in English. It vanished into the river, and no one agrees on what it was. But everyone remembers, because some stories don't need proof. They just need mystery. Wow, that one's kind of cool. I like that because it's, it's not appearing threatening. It's not, it's not trying to harm people or anything like that. I mean, the Mothman, that one, I feel like with the three that we've sort of looked at today, you've got the frogman that's kind of more just about being a bit of a watcher and just kind of like being like, oh shit, they've caught me, I need to hide. Then you've got the beast, which is very happy to just go in there and kill people. And then you've got Mothman that's kind of like a combination of both, where he only kind of shows up right before something bad happens, but he's not directly like harming the people. It's like, I don't know. It's like, yeah, creepy. So it's interesting that those three kind of are all like sort of different, but almost complement each other in the way that they move around. Super, super creepy. But yeah, I hope that you've enjoyed today's episode on the creepy cryptids that we've covered today. Yeah, I'm excited to delve into the next episode with you as well. So before I share any more about that, I just want to say a massive thank you and a massive shout out to you all for watching, for listening, for engaging with me through social media and following along on the podcast. Truly means a lot. Thank you. And if you liked this episode, please leave a comment and a review. It is really helpful for the show to get boosted to other paranormally curious minds like us. Thank you. 3 creatures, 3 sightings. One with wings that burned before the bridge fell. One with teeth that tore through history. One with eyes that blinked from the river's edge and vanished. They didn't chase us. They didn't speak. They appeared just before something broke. And maybe that's the truth we keep missing. That monsters don't always come to harm us. Sometimes they come to show us what we've ignored. In the next episode, we leave the watchers behind and step into the sacred. Creatures that guard waterholes, walk like ghosts, and perch in trees just before the silence. They don't belong to our world, but they certainly remember it. Join us for Cryptid Mania, Guardians and Glitches, where the veil thins and the watchers wait. So, before I leave you, remember, stay grounded, stay curious, and always expect the unexpected. Bye.